From the disc 3 of the compilation, the first greatest hits compilation that was officially sanctioned by Warner Brothers, the hits and the B-sides, that is the late great Prince Rogers Nelson with a song titled 17 Days. It was the B-side of When Doves Cry that I used to have on a purple 45.
You're never going to get over that, are you?
I'm not. I am not.
Your purple heartbreak mold and it went back to the earth somewhere.
Yes, I know. But it's still, I offered that, and it's gonna be all Prince music for
all Prince. Okay.
Yes, for today for our interludes. As we talk about the way that Spike Lee, in particular, has developed a long-standing relationship with Prince, contributing to the soundtracks of his various pieces. And, many people really appreciated the way that Raspberry Beret was folded into the scene in the finale of She's Gotta Have It, the Netflix series.
You watched the whole thing already?
I did. Of course I did.
Okay, I didn't binge through it. Yeah, I'm through episode 3. But
oh, okay, yeah, no. I was like, I had to, because I knew that people were going to be talking about it, and it is one of those things. The same way that if I DVR Queen Sugar, then I was going to make sure that I watched it within the next 24 to 48 hours after it aired, because everybody's going to be talking about it.
See, I'm off Facebook now. I don't know what people are talking about.
Well,
I have no clue. I may go back, but I mean, for people who have been checking, it's a long story. I'll explain it after we talk to our guests.
Exactly. Well, I want to say that Mike is representing today because he's got on his Blacksonian sweatshirt and he's got on his She's Gotta Have It hat. Yeah. So you are fully up in your black cultural
we're
bag
talking about Mars
today.
Blackman and all that stuff. I had to come correct. My shoe game isn't that tight. Well, we don't see your shoes.
I was going to say, yeah. So. It's quite all right. But we are here and glad to have you here for this week's edition of Reelblack Radio.
Yeah, Mike. Yes, but the thing, for those who don't know, She's Gotta Have It has been remade into a TV series with 10 episodes on Netflix. All of them dropped on Thanksgiving Day.
Yes.
Which is quite fitting. Imagining the first She's Gotta Have It, the big Thanksgiving dinner scene.
Yep.
So, and you've gotten through them all, I guess,
And so has our first guest for today's program. So I want to go ahead and bring ERNEST OWENS in, award-winning journalist, and definitely a strong voice for the LGBTQ community. And that is part of the reason why we wanted to engage with you today, Ernest, because we know that in a story, as it is couched with She's Gotta Have It, where we're talking about sexual empowerment and how that is received and all of the different moral questions and everything that come into being from a heteronormative perspective. It's also a little different in the way that the Black LGBTQ community has been looking at the imagery and the relationships as they are presented in this Netflix series, and the conversation that's been had around that.
Yeah, well, first off, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be on the show again.
Hey, welcome.
Good to be on Word. A lot of this is, for me, there was a lot of issues just in general with just the show outside of an LGBTQ lens. I just felt like the show just in general was just flat. Most of the characters are very one-dimensional. With the 3 guys that NOLA Darling, who's the main character, pursues, they are kind of like the same archetypes of the same 3 men in the last show, in the last movie. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like there was a lot of, talk about what made this futuristic, but when you really look at the show as a whole, there was a lot of ideas being thrown around, but there wasn't really any actions. And so some of the stuff that really kind of just, took me off was that, NOLA describes herself as this liberated, pansexual, feminist and whatnot, giving herself all these descriptions, but throughout the show, you really don't see that happening. She had a relationship with another woman who was like the 4th lover in the show, but outside of that, there's nothing about NOLA Darling that speaks to her being pansexual, being anything else outside of just adding in this small played out lesbian relationship. But it's really nothing outside. I think he just kind of coined these terms as catchphrases to try to appeal to a new generation of moviegoers. The movie came out in 1986. I was born in 1991. So I took a Spike Lee class in college, and I saw She's Gotta Have It for the first time when I was at Penn. And so I was really fascinated by it because, you know, I was taught that this was something that was a big deal in the 80s, given that this was this idea of a black woman, a young black woman being open about, you know, not being monogamous, and how that really kind of opened the door for a lot of romantic comedies, like Two Can Play That Game, Deliver Us from Eva, and a lot of other those like female-led black, you know, comedies. And so that really was the opening, because before She's Gotta Have It, I can't think of any other film like it, you know, that do it. But you can see in the 90s and moving into the 2000s, there is kind of these reoccurring roles and themes of women, you know, being open about that. And I think it really kind of the genesis starts really as She's Gotta Have It. Now, when it came out in the 80s, it was, you know, based on what I've read and just talking to, you know, we got to talk to some people who got to work on that project. You know, there was problems because of the fact that Spike was a male who wrote it. There's that infamous rape scene that happens at the end of the movie that really took people off guard. And he himself, Spike Lee, has admitted, you know, like a couple of years ago, that he regretted doing that scene. But it just shows a growth in his character and his, you know, where he grew. I mean, where he was then, I mean, that movie's now 30 years old. It's 30 years old now. Yeah. So, you know, there's definitely a growth there in how people used to do certain things in films they can't even do anymore. No one will allow it to, especially when it comes to sexism and homophobia. There's a lot of things that, you know, that used to be very overt that are now being checked. So, you know, back then, but still, despite its flaws, it was something that was ahead of its time. The issue I had watching it as a millennial now is that all of the older people that I know, seasoned, you know, wiser, more mature people my parents' age watching it, they're kind of like a little bit excited about it, a little bit like, oh wow, you know, this is a big deal. I'm looking like, you guys don't watch TV like I do. Like, nothing on that show was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. And if you watch like Queen Sugar, like you mentioned earlier, Queen Sugar has explored, you know, same-sex dating and nuanced and unmonogamous relationships with their main character, Nola, which is ironic that her name is Nola. But like Nola on that show is so different, you know, from NOLA Darling. But it just seemed like he came too late to the party. And I think that in many ways he stood in his own way. Because what people don't know is that he didn't really have, I mean, he had his wife, Tanya Lee, is one of the executive producers. Yeah,
and I spoke to her 2 weeks ago about her involvement with that, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
I mean, you know, apparently she kind of was the one who nudged him to really even do a reboot. He had a couple of female writers throughout the process, but when you're looking at the directing, it's an 18-episode series. He directs. I mean, it's a 10 episode series. Yeah. He directs 8 out of 10 of the shows, and you can't help but acknowledge that his own male gaze is permeated throughout the characters. There's stuff that I'm just like, you know, for example, her arguing about whether Denzel deserved the Oscar over Al Pacino. I'm like, that's like, why would she do that? Like, not in 2017. She's not caring about that. She would probably argue more about why, you know, Halle Berry won and she's the only winner. Why has black women been snubbed? Like, why would she care about this?
Well, I was going to say, Ernest, let me interject. Let the Mike jump in, because especially because Mike has worked directly with Spike at 30 Acres and a Mule, too.
No, I mean, I appreciate your take on it. I do agree. I mean, I haven't gotten all the way through, but it is very anachronistic because, I mean, at the time, there were no black independent films really prior to She's Gotta Have It. It really knocked down the doors. So anything that you connect with, anything that came after, you can directly connect to the success of that. It was the first time you saw young black people in a film. But I mean, there are lots of films like She's Gotta Have It, but they're mostly French.
Yes.
You know, we don't really explore our sexuality in film. So yeah, I can see how your expectations would be, you know, I mean, the first episode for me was torture because I had to readjust in my mind. It was almost like getting a new pair of shoes after having a nice pair for a long time. You know, just like trying to just shape Mars in my head and all that stuff.
Yes.
But you know, I'm at episode 3 and Lynn Nottage wrote it. I mean, you have to acknowledge that he's trying to make some corrections. But yeah, you know, I don't know how groundbreaking the show's intended, but I do think that he's trying to inject some ideas into the culture, so to speak, that are interesting. I don't know if his style or his format is necessarily conducive to habitual TV watching.
Well, so you know, so I want to ask both of you, as the woman sitting here on the microphone now, and dealing with both of you as gentlemen, the notion of how female sexuality is portrayed, regardless of who the object of your affection is, right?
Yes.
I'm curious how you all view that lens, because I receive what you're saying, Ernest, about this idea of pansexuality. If that's how she's self-described in the series, I don't know that that's necessarily evident. And I say that based on a woman being heterosexual in a group of sister friends who most of my friends tend to be far more sexually fluid than I particularly am. And the idea of how relationships are represented and how the conversations are engaged around that, I think are a little troublesome in the way that the series is presented, because you have the Caribbean sister friend that's part of the group, and how she still struggles with image, or you know, how to monetize her form in order to move forward. So as guys who are looking at this, you know, how does that stuff play for each of you? Now, Mike, you're only three episodes in, so you might not have as much of a.
I mean, I'll go first. I mean, basically, I think the mission of this show is to sort of challenge the idea of male gaze and reinforce blackness as norm, or as normative. You know, I don't think that it's trying to do too much beyond that. It may be showing and also reflect the changing style of Brooklyn in terms of the way it's being gentrified. Yes. But I give it a nod, and I think, you know, one of the things that I noticed right away was in episode 2, I guess it was when they went to the club and they had the drag the queen dancers or whatever. Were they men or women that were dancing? They look very much like men when they went to the nightclub.
It was a mix.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a mix. Yeah, I thought so too.
Okay, the way you're looking at me, I was like, okay, did I get that wrong?
No, I was like, I don't think
I mean, I feel like it's reflecting a lifestyle. I don't know if it's reflecting a real world, the way that NOLA Darling, specifically in 1986, Tracy Camilla Johns was very much. You could have pulled that character right off the streets.
Go for. I think that art. I think he was trying to go for. It gave me this reminiscence of that famous painting that they use in Good Times. You know, gives off with that very you know, imaginative black party dance thing. I mean, it was so avant-garde, but it threw people over their heads, and for me, I just felt like it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
But it was forced. I mean, this is again Spike Lee forcing his. I mean, in a way, like kind of like it's like it.
Yeah, force is a good word.
It doesn't fit now. It would have probably done a lot better a couple of years ago. I mean, he tried something similar in Chirac, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate him. He's trying to move the needle on the culture is my point. But I think, you know, 1986, Tracy Camilla Johns' NOLA Darling was exactly that bohemian black woman. And I'm older now. I don't know if, you know, black woman in her mid to late 20s is still the same. Yeah. You know, I think it's Issa Rae now. You know,
but that's what I was getting at. That's why I kind of feel like with this show, we don't know, right? You don't know unless you ask a woman, and that's why I think that was the frustrating part of this show. Was like I'm watching it, like I don't care. In 2017, with all of these successful black filmmakers, screenwriters that you know, Ava DuVernay with her show Queen Sugar has opened, like almost every episode has allowed a different woman to direct it. Shonda Rhimes done the same with Grey's Anatomy and Scandal. But like with all these different doors opening for other women and to have a creative hand to be a part of that perception, it works like that. That's why for me it's all about representation, about allowing people to have that agency. I think for a TV series it is unorthodox for any director or creator of a series to have so much of a directive pull. It shows often the reason why, and I think that's why he doesn't understand the TV business, because when it comes to TV, it's all about that creative fluency. Like no TV series often has the same director directing the most of the shows. They open up different perspectives, especially when you're dealing with, because I think this is really a Spike Lee problem. I think that
I don't know.
Let him finish.
I just want to finish.
All right,
I watched all like 10 episodes, and I think one of the things that Spike Lee has done a lot is that and this is the issue with Black artistry, is that too often there's always this central Black straight male gaze of like how Blackness is defined, sexuality is defined, everything is through their lens, and there's always implicit bias in that. We talk about implicit bias when we talk about white filmmakers who decide the Grammys and who should get what is hip hop. Like, we always have these male-centric authority, and I think when you're doing a theme where it's centered on a woman's sexuality at a young age, a millennial, I don't really care what a plus 50-year-old straight Black man thinks about a pansexual millennial woman in Brooklyn in 2017. I would rather have seen other women be able to shape that narrative, and not just his family, because he does that all the time where he kind of says, oh, I do have women in my things. My sister here, my mother. He always puts his family on. But it would have been interesting for him to really let go of the helms a little bit on the director's seat, because that's really the issue. I think the contradiction of this television series is that for all of its talks of female agency, Black female empowerment, you don't really see that crossover into the production side of it, which was a big failed opportunity. I get back then why Spike Lee probably had a harder time doing that in 1886, but I can't forgive him in 2017 with all of these Black emerging female filmmakers that he would still run the show as much as he did. He had too much of a heavy hand in the show, and I think that's why a lot of scenes and a lot of moments were just flat, because he really couldn't go there because he wasn't in those shoes. I loved Moonlight, because Moonlight was, directed by a straight Black man, but it was co-produced by a Black gay man. It was written by a screenplay and played by a queer Black man, and that is why I think a movie like Moonlight did better than so many other previous films, because it was someone's take. It was someone's opportunity to help co-produce a film that was talking about that experience that no one else could really take help of. Because too often in cinema, especially in Black cinema, it is heavily male-dominated by straight Black men that are often older. We're not seeing younger women. With a character like NOLA Darling in 2017, it would have been interesting to see what Issa Rae could have did with that. It could have been interesting what Ava could have done with that, or other women, and Ruby Dees, and all these other people, Dee Reeves. There could have been so many people that could have really helped revamp this show. When it first came, when I heard they was doing a reboot, I was super excited, because I was like, wow, they're going to give it a millennial, they're going to give it a modern day reboot. Like, when you say you're going to reboot a show, you bring it up to the time. This show was lagging because it's not up to date with other Black shows that are out that are doing these different experiences and challenges. Insecure is out. Why do we need NOLA Darling in 2017 like the way she is when we have Issa Rae? If you're going to give us a NOLA Darling, then NOLA Darling has to be fully explored and imagined the same way other Black women have done that with their characters, whether on Queen Sugar, whether on Scandal, whether on How to Get Away with Murder. We have too many other female representation that has really kind of been multi-layered, that for a show like this to come out with all of this great opportunity and for it to still be dominated by a man who is now not a young, fresh, emerging filmmaker. He's now a veteran, legendary filmmaker. It's a different time.
Yeah, well, Ernest, we got to take a commercial break, but I'm glad that you've tossed it all out there, and I'm going to give Mike a chance to respond on the other side, because we got to take a break, and I know you have another guest calling in.
Yeah.
But Ernest, thank you for sharing some perspective on this, because I think there are a lot of people who watched the series. You know, they binge watched it, and a lot of people didn't exactly know what to say. That a lot of folks are still processing. I think there are going to be a lot of discussion opportunities. People are going to be hosting, opportunities for us to come together as a community and delve into a lot of what you've offered us today, whether they stand on the side with you or whether they want to, rebut some of the things that you've offered us. But we need to be talking about it. We need to be examining how our images are being depicted on the large and small screen. And I thank you for, kind of igniting that for us so that we can continue the conversation on today's program.
It was definitely a great show.
Thank you so much, Ernest. We'll be checking in with you again in the near future, I am sure. Take care. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, we got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to give Mike D a chance to take a few deep breaths and respond to some of what Ernest gave us, as well as welcome our next guest. This is the TGIF edition of Reelblack Radio here on the 1st of December. We'll be right back. From a compilation called Old Friends for Sale, we wanted to give you a little bit of the instrumental genius of Prince Rogers Nelson with that track titled When the Lights Go Down. And, I think there are a lot of people who are completely familiar with the commercial releases, the big soundtrack songs, as well as some of the other album tracks that people just loved where, there's plenty of guitar and there's lots of singing. But Prince has such a deft hand at the piano and all different kinds of vibes. And I think a lot of people didn't catch up with the many releases with saxophonist impossible. Eric Leeds. He worked with Candy Dulfer. You think about all the different artists that he brought into the jazz world and his expression in that regard. So I wanted to offer that. Like I said, we got Prince that's musical interludes.
That's actually an excellent way to get into my rebuttal. Because, I do equate. Prince and Spike Lee, I think, were born the same year, right? 58, and both consummate artists. Yeah. So, when I look at She's Gotta Have It, I look at it within the context of his body of work. And yes, Ernest is correct. He's an older filmmaker, and he should be passing the torch to other people that can express his thing. But he's still an independent filmmaker. Yeah. He's working with Netflix. You have to understand where the power is in this equation and what he's able to do and what Spike Lee is able to do when he has a sizable budget. Yeah. I think that some of the Spike Lee eccentricities were still in the in the picture. Yes. But it was definitely reined in a little bit more for commercial consumption than, say, a Chirac or Sweet Blood of Jesus. So it wasn't a total train wreck. So for that, I am eternally grateful, Spike Lee, and I hope that we get a season 2 out of this. But also the power. Netflix. Yeah, I'm sure if Spike Lee, if it was in his range, he would be giving opportunities to his longtime cinematographer to direct, or Terrence Nance, or lots of people that understand and live in Brooklyn today. They're in their 20s, but Netflix ain't going to do that. You see what they did with The Get Down. The minute the creator wanted to step away from that, it was over. So, and I think Spike Lee is an artist who likes to get out there on the field. He's probably directing today, So if he's got the opportunity to make 10 episodes, he's going to say, well, this is like a 3-hour movie, or a 300-minute movie. So I applaud that. And the reason why a lot of people don't direct every episode is a lot of heavy lifting. But then you have to look at what he did do. He brought on Lynn Nottage.
And Rada Blunt.
One of the best playwrights, African American playwrights there, and then he's done that before with Girl 6. He had Suzanne Laurie Parks, right? So I think he understands where his weaknesses are in the game, and he tries to correct it. But yeah, it's still, Spike is going to throw some things in there that are going to be a little like, okay, that's a angry black man, So,
but I will say, I think there was a lot more character development explored in the series, and you're still early in it. So there's some stuff that I almost don't want to talk with you about until you've had a chance to see the episodes. Okay. Because I think it would do a disservice to you approaching it with fresh eyes.
Like you said, you got to get used to the shoes. But I think the Mars, he's kind of growing on me a little bit, although it's still an imitation.
The new Mars Blackman is my favorite.
Oh, you like him?
On the entire series.
He was in Hamilton, apparently, right? So
I think so.
He was one of the Hamilton guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's. I mean, there's a lot of talent. I mean, Spike has always put talent on. So I do have a big problem saying that that's the problem. I think the problem is your expectations of what this, but you have to look at it within the context of his body of work. Yeah, we would have loved a grand slam, but I think this is serviceable, and he's taking the opportunity to get some things out. But I don't. It's definitely not on the pulse of things. I think it is conversation worthy, and that also does a service for the culture. Mm-hmm. It does a service for the continuation of the art, because there are other people who will look at the framework that's been set by She's Gotta Have It and continue to develop it and bring out different nuance, and they'll call it something different, and it'll have different characters, but it'll still push the conversation forward. Which is what we can really did we need it? Was it necessary? I don't know. I mean, is it necessary to have these conversations? Is it necessary to have works of art that are actually art and not commerce, that are directed at Black folks, that are trying to feed us something? I think that's important. Mm-hmm. And I think that, for me, from my Black male gaze, it's very interesting to see somebody trying to push the culture in the direction of normalizing Black women's liberation on the same level as what we are always talking about in these hashtags, Black Lives Matter, normalizing Blackness as a, not us being the other. So so
image might not be everything, as they used to say with Sprite, but it's important.
I enjoyed it. I mean, am I going to finish it? I don't know if I'm going to finish it. I haven't finished a lot of things.
You got to finish it so we can talk about it, Mike.
But there's so many things to watch, including tomorrow night.
Exactly. So please.
With us on the line is a good friend of mine. And I'm just really happy. I was up late and I turned on the TV, and Jordan Rock is sitting there next to Carson Daly, promoting his next special, promoting his move to LA. He's a Netflix star, and he's here to talk to us about it. If he's still awake, he's.
What's up? What's up?
Hey, I'm surprised you're up this early, Jordan Rock.
What are you talking about? It's noon.
I know, you're a stand-up comedian. So
I'm up, man. I'm up.
Okay, are you wide awake?
I am. I've been up. I've probably been up since like 9 a.m.
Tell us about this special, or this showcase.
Well, tonight on HBO, all deaf comedy, presented by Russell Simmons. But can we say Russell Simmons' name out loud?
Well, we can talk about that. But talk about you first.
We'll get back. We'll get back to the other stuff later.
Yeah. Well, it comes out tonight. My brother Tone is hosting it. Tony Rock. It's me. Gary Owens is on it. Robert Powell, and I think Clayton Team. I know a guy named Clay. Based on his last name, I hope he's not listening right now. But it's 4 comics. It's dope. It's the first episode of the new season, and I'm super excited for it.
Well, congratulations. I mean, we made a movie together. I discovered you, Jordan Rock. I did the first documentary, Ladies and Gentlemen, Jordan Rock, and I discovered your brother. I'll take credit for that too. But so it's great to see you growing, man, and doing so much. We ran into each other earlier this year, but this is like your first major platform. So that's why I wanted you to call in. I'm so happy you did. So what was the pressure? I know you've been touring the whole country with Tony. Was this? Did you set yourself up for this big shot?
You know what? I was just preparing. I was just ready. I've been holding on to jokes forever. And this year I was just like, you know what? I got to just let these things fly. So I did the Carson Daly that you saw. Mm-hmm. That was really good. I also had another set come out on Laugh Out Loud, Kevin Hart's new streaming platform.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I lucked up and got this. This was really dope. I was talking to everyone forever, and they were like, they kind of did not want to give it to me. But then I went to the showcase, and they were like, oh, okay, this guy.
Oh, come on! Your brother hosts the show. Stop it.
Wait. But let's talk about that though, because
everybody was like, you know what's funny? Everybody didn't want to give it to me, even after I killed the showcase. I went and I did the taping, and after the taping, they were like, oh man, like that was great. I was like, wait, do you guys think I was going to bomb?
It's like, how would you think? How dare you think so little of me? But talk about that a little bit, though. The pressure of being in a legacy family, and a legacy family in comedy, because I don't think people really understand, as you're coming up, you know, as more of the last name becomes prominent, what it's like for you to follow in those footsteps and still establish yourself on your own terms.
It takes time. It takes time. You have to do extra work simply because you have to let people know that you're serious.
Yeah.
They don't want to give you the job if they think you're going to leave, if you're going to give up and, you know, just go work at your brother's company or something like that. They want to know that you're for real about what you're doing. And as time went on, people just saw the consistency and that I was really about it. And now I don't, you know, now I feel like I'm myself more than I've ever been.
Yeah, you have a different, you found your own lane. I mean, you never talk politics, but then, you know, you had to find that lane between what Chris does and what Tony does. I mean, what are you talking about right now?
What am I talking about right now? I'm talking about some stuff. I'm trying to, you know, talk about some things and push it forward and make some social commentary jokes. But I just don't like to go in, and I don't like to go in and sound like I'm telling you a riddle. I want to actually tell you a joke. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm just talking about my move to L.A., relationships, because, you know, I'm, like, actually out here now, and just life, really. It's all just developing. I'm really aware that what I'm doing right now is what I'm doing at 26, and that it's going to grow.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to say that, you know, but we've been talking about she's got to have it within the context of, you know, sort of the statement about the characters. But talk about Brooklyn, because you know, it's such a huge part of how, you know, we come to understand your family being rooted and what it means to be there to watch the changes happening. It's something that, you know, I've talked about a lot with the Simmons family also.
Yeah, he grew up down south, but he lived in you still have your spot.
Brooklyn. I've lived in Brooklyn since the gentrification really hit.
Yeah. So the gourmet mayo shops and what have you.
Yeah, a lot of crepe.
And people need to understand that is the reality that people are trying to navigate through at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because it's like it's really interesting because there's white people around, but there's still crackheads around.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do they coexist? You know, there's still the dudes that been on the corner forever that they can't really get out because, you know, they've lived in the building forever and their rent's still $300.
Right.
And then there's white people, and I'm like, it's interesting. It's really interesting. Brooklyn's interesting. There's so many like skyscrapers going up right now. Like I live in Fort Greene right now, and there's so many buildings going up. And what sucks about the buildings going up is that nobody in Brooklyn is looking at these buildings like, hey man, you know, I was waiting for a spot. I'm gonna just wait till this opens up and I'm gonna move in. It's like, no, that's not what's gonna happen. Like somebody from Ohio is gonna get into that building. It's like, yeah, you lived in Brooklyn your whole life. Ohio, 31st floor, penthouse.
Wait, we have to take a break, but can you stick with us? I want to finish catching up because I know you got two shows on Netflix too, right?
Yep, I'm gonna stay around.
All right, hang with us.
All right, then we're going to take our last commercial break of today's program and come back with Jordan Rock and the conclusion of this week's edition of Real Black Radio. So hang tight. So I always try to bring out tracks from this album because it has been so deeply maligned by so many people who call themselves Prince fans.
The Chocolate Experience?
No.
The Rainbow Children.
And
the record that went wood.
You know, see.
All right, I'm sorry, maligning.
See what I'm saying? Immediately, people jump to that. It was designed as a musical theater piece, and that is the way that I receive it. But other people, because it is not the big bombastic Purple Rain-ish style Prince, they don't know how to deal with it. If you listen to it and you can fast forward through the monologues, I'm saying, to get to the music on this album, it was phenomenal. You sound like a Trump
voter. You're just trying to justify. You're just trying to justify your poor,
Jordan, some of them are long.
Poor taste.
I'm being perfectly honest. I was gonna say, and they got like auto-tune demon voice kind of stuff. It was when Prince was really kind of reconnecting with his Jehovah's Witness self, and so it was a little preachy.
So maybe I should like take some like shrooms or something before I listen to this.
Yeah, now with shrooms, it would probably be a whole new mind-altering experience.
It's Prince chopped and screwed, basically. Yeah. But it's great music.
But musically, it's really, really good.
There's deep songs on there. I think there's one on there. Was it on that album where he's talking about the power? 1%?
Everlasting Now.
No, I'll find the title. It's like about the power structures. And
I think that's the 1 + 1 = 1. But
it's deep. And Kevin Smith, he was actually at Punchline where I saw you last, Jordan, and he actually he regurgitated the Prince story after his death, and he said, "Look, I should apologize. Like the guy was great, and the
fact that the Prince had him standing around all day."
Well, he said he thought he hopes that the video that they shot actually comes out because it was Prince at his most normal, and he regretted that he didn't look at it as an opportunity to bond with a great artist, but just turn into like a cheap joke for a special or whatever. So but going back to life, Jordan Rock has a special on tonight, or he's part of the all deaf comedy tonight on HBO, and I'm sure it's gonna be on HBO Go and Demand and all that stuff.
So, all that.
So if you're not up that late, you can get it. But there's a lot going on in the news. We're not going to name names, to protect all those warranted. But all these dominoes are falling with this sexual harassment. What are you doing to protect yourself?
I'm only talking to girls I meet on Tinder. I'm like, if we met on Tinder, you know
what's up, right?
Well, I think that's in the agreement when you get the app. You just sort of like protect yourself.
If I swipe right, you know what the deal is.
You already know what's up.
Well, it's a little tough because I'm all this.
It's like now it's like I hang out if say there's like a comic that I have a crush on, and I'm like, hey, like I have a crush on you, we should hang out, and she's like, nah. Now I gotta give her spots because I just sexually harassed her.
Yeah.
Like now she's bullying me.
Well, just don't lock doors.
I'm not doing anything, dude. I'm telling you, I'm keeping hands off.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but see, LA is kind of a whole new world as far as that's concerned. And I've had friends who moved out there for work or moved out there for all different kinds of reasons who have reacted to it in diametrically opposed ways. Some people love it, and some people like me are like, I'm way too East Coast to really be able to find a good groove in LA. So how in the back and forth and in kind of establishing yourself and figuring out where you might eventually officially lay roots. How are you dealing with the LA experience?
Oh, I love LA. I like money. I was really broke in New York. Like everyone was I grew up in South Carolina. That's where I've actually, all my actual growing was. Yeah. So when I came to New York, I wasn't with my mom or like anyone. I was like here by myself.
Yeah.
All my friends were like actual New Yorkers, and they're like, man, do you remember like when we were broke? That was the best time. I was like, that was the worst time of my life, bro.
and weed is legal.
Yeah, it is.
In California.
All that. I have a car out there. It's a great time.
I hear that.
Yeah, so you need to get into the dispensary business.
I held off, though. You got to hold off before you go to L.A. Don't go to L.A. at this time.
Now, are you in your pay grade, though? I saw the car on Instagram. It seemed like a little bit like, okay, it's in that mid-range, but it looks like you got to work harder now.
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's right there. It's like, because if I didn't live in L.A., I would have probably just got a Honda.
Jordan stunts on Instagram. He you're about to go live now, I'm sure. Like I get the notifications so much, and it's like it looks like you're having so much fun.
Everybody says I go live all the time. I don't go live as much as I should. I guess I need to go live more.
What is it? Jordan Rock 356. What is it?
843.
Jordan Rock 843 is gone live. It's like, okay, yeah, Jordan's living. So.
It's like tune in to J-Rock does nothing. You're watching Jordan do nothing.
But you're building a fan base. You're expanding what you do. You're connecting with your audience, and that's never a bad thing.
Yeah, no, never at all.
Okay, well, you need to be trending tonight because you're gonna be making this special debut.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully, I threw a lot of things out there that I think are trend worthy.
In terms of
so tune in. There's a lot of good jokes on that set. If it didn't get edited out, there's a lot of good jokes in that.
Oh, so is that your go-to? Like, if nobody laughs, they cut that out.
No.
It's like, it wasn't that funny. That's because Tony's jealous.
I'm just hoping that, like, I know they're gonna do a little bit of editing, but I just hope, the core stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can we catch the live experience? I mean, we're winding it down. Just all your hashtags, your @, all the Twitter.
Yeah, let people know how they can stay in touch.
Live. Where am I at live? My next date. I'm Comic Strip Live in New York City all this weekend. Next, I don't go back on the road until the 28th through the 30th. I'm in Tampa, Florida at the Improv. And I'm just cool, man. Watch All Def Comedy on HBO. Watch Love on Netflix. Watch Take the 10 on Netflix. I have another movie coming out in 2018 called The After Party, which is also a Netflix feature. So just tune in, watch stuff.
That's what's up. I'm surprised you're not in California this weekend. Chris is like doing a residence almost, like 3 nights in a row.
I'm here next week. Well, he's here next week, so I'm.
So you're gonna see it again, and you're at the taping. Okay, so
I'll be around.
The Rock Boys are killing it this year. So
yeah, I might even pop up on stage. Who knows?
Nice.
Hey, that's what's up. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Indeed.
Excited for you, and congratulations.
Thank you, man. Nice talking to you.
Remember who discovered you first. Don't be changing your numbers and blocking me.
No, never. I do space on a lot of texts. I text like a pretty light skinned girl. Like, everybody tells me that. Everyone tells. So don't be upset when I miss a text. I'm just being light skinned.
All right, thank you so much.
I've learned not to take offense at those things.
Well, you saw I put on Instagram, like, when people don't return my texts, that's how I feel. Picture prints.
Well, please.
That's how I feel.
Light-skinned folks are staking our claim in this universe. It's like, the brown-skinned folks and the dark-skinned folks, we love you too. Y'all a fam. But we are not going to, us light-skinned folks are not going to be continuously maligned without staking our ground.
Do you? I pass you the baton, and I got some things to say.
I was going to say, yes, as we wind down today's program, we want to remind all of you watching us on Facebook Live, those of you who are tuned in on the stream or on the airwaves, that we want to see you. If you are anywhere near Greater Philadelphia, then tomorrow, Community College of Philadelphia is where you need to be with the entire Word family as our first Word Empowerment Expo gets underway Saturday, December 2nd, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The expo features a holiday marketplace where you can do your holiday shopping by supporting Black-owned businesses. We'll have a wellness pavilion where you can get life-saving health screenings and information, and a career and job fair to learn about employment opportunities around the city. The day will feature 3 powerful panel discussions. Mind Your Business, discussing the importance of supporting small businesses in our community, what we here at Word call conscious consumerism. Our Diversity and Inclusion Career Roundtable, asking where are the jobs in the city. Violence as a public health issue, beginning at 3 p.m., moderated by our very own Chris Flood, the drummer Norris, and special workshops on finance, wellness, cooking, and more. And if you're a Forward member, we've got a special members-only VIP lounge where we'll be welcoming you into, and other things going on there as well. So bring the entire family for a day of free fun, information, community, and conscious consumerism in our holiday marketplace. For a detailed schedule of the entire day's events, go to wordradio.com or call us at 215-425-7875. And this entire event, the Word Empowerment Expo, first ever, is presented by Keystone First VIP Choice, and Community College of Philadelphia.
Wow.
I was going to say, you can turn him back. Yeah.
She turned me off.
Because you were rattling your box.
Well, I was making noise.
Yes.
That was impressive. The public school systems are incredible. Thank God. We need to continue to support them. You read all the way through that. I would have messed up. But
that's what I do, man.
Big shout out. I mean, before we go, Quest opens in at the Ritz at
tonight.
the Bourse, beginning tonight, 7 p.m. show. The Rainey family will be there. We had Sabrina on earlier.
Indeed, I was going to say, and Quest is part of David Barnes' show on Sunday evening. So Word is featured prominently in the film.
So if you're free tonight, 7 p.m. at the Ritz at the Bourse, please come support. We're going to sell that out. They're also going to be making appearances throughout the weekend. The information's on my Instagram. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, Roman J. Israel, Esquire. Brilliant film. One of Denzel's best performances. Thor Ragnarok, I had a chance to see. Tessa Thompson, Idris Elba helping to save the world in a respect.
And be beautiful at the same time.
Great films. And and yeah, just good stuff. And then rest in peace to Bruce Webb.
Yes.
One of my mentors ran Webb's department store for over 40 years. Peaceful transition.
Always out taking pictures for the Scoop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a video now, and he's all over it, and just the Scoop and everything. So that's all I have to say. But yeah, it's a great show. It always went by, and then again, if you haven't seen, She's Gotta Have It on Netflix and Mudbound on Netflix. Netflix is killing it.
So next week, can we talk about Mudbound?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get a guest. But we'll see how it goes. Yes.
Okay. Yes. I was going to say, over the holiday, I took time and sat down with my Netflix for the first time in months and actually watched some stuff. And so, I would love to dig back into that.
We'll re-investigate Mudbound.
Indeed. So that does it for this TGIF edition of The Source. Brother Shamari is coming up next. So make sure you keep your dial locked here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. And for those of you who are coming out to the Empowerment Expo, I look forward to greeting you earlier in the day and leading our live broadcast in the 2 p.m. hour as the lead in for our conversation about violence as a public health issue. So make sure that you are putting Word Radio and our Empowerment Expo into your planner and planning to join us for at least part of the day tomorrow, where so much good information, great commerce, and fellowship is going to be taking place at CCP. Until then, take good care, everybody.